for joining us today for the fourth and final installment of our digital series on the Peace Park Interpretive Master Plan. I'm Chuck Smith, the COO at Peace Park Conservancy.
And I'm Angela Davis. I'm the Director of Experience for MuseWork Exhibits.
And I am Erin McClelland. I'm the Director of Operations for MuseWork.
Well, thank you so much. We're in the home stretch here and our fourth and final installment. I'm so grateful for your participation in this series. Today, we're going to be talking about the theme of Peace Park as a natural treasure and it being a part of our history to take care of that. I'd like to start with, how did that come to be as one of the primary themes of this interpretive plan?
Peace Park is one of Austin's oldest parks, and it does have a 145-year-long legacy of people stepping up to take care of this special place. And so that story of its history is really the story of its future. And so we wanted to make sure that the interpretive plan pointed out all the ways in which civic leaders, independent citizens, volunteers, donors, and just kind people have come forward and done their part over the years to care for the park. We wouldn't have a park today if it wasn't for this chain of people stretching back 145 years. And today, we all get to be part of that chain, and we'll care for the park for the next 145 years.
So we mentioned before about the park itself being a natural treasure. What makes Peace Park special?
Peace Park is very special because it is Austin's first large green space. Its size and its diversity, right in the heart of the city, it's really, really unique. And when Governor Pease and his wife donated that land in 1875, it became Austin's first official city park, other than the Republic Squares. That's before the University of Texas. That's before the current Capitol was built. Peace Park has been here since the beginning.
So we mentioned that Peace Park is 145 years old and has experienced both highs and lows. Can you talk a little bit about what have been some of the efforts in support of the park over this long period of time?
So the story of Peace Park begins with the donation of the original founding 20 acres by the Pease family. And then, talking about highs and lows, the park was a little neglected. It was hard to think about it, but it was really on the outskirts of the city for a long time. But that neglect might have actually been positive because so much biodiversity, so much of the plant life and the animal life got to be preserved because the city hadn't yet grown around it. So for the first 40 or 50 years of the park's life, it was a little out of the way from people who were living in downtown. But of course, as we've discussed, there were some communities who lived around it, notably the communities of Clarksville and Wheatsville. But in the 1920s and in the 1930s, when suburbs began to be built up around the park and automobiles began to be this new thing, people started to get invested in really fixing the park up. Local leaders like the Kiwanis helped get some of that New Deal federal money flowing into the park. The park's historic bridges, some of the picnic tables, that lovely Tudor cottage, all of these park improvements date to this time period when citizens just stepped forward to make sure that money got allocated to fix up Peace Park. And then I guess there was a few decades of a little bit more neglect. But then in the 50s, another local person whose name was Janet Longfish, she spearheaded the donation of more land, the acquisition of more land, and the creation of that hike and bike trail that runs up Peace Park to 39th Street. Her story is just an example of how one tenacious person can really get a lot done, because apparently she was a force of nature. My favorite story about Janet Longfish is the story Janet had hired a bulldozer to help create the hike and bike trail, but the undergrowth and the bushes were so large that she had to walk ahead of the bulldozer, throwing her hat into the air so that he could see where she was. And that's how the hike and bike trail along parts of Shoal Creek was created, by the actions and the care of this person really getting involved and spearheading these efforts. And then, of course, in 2008, the group that became Peace Park Conservancy stepped in when they saw that the park was in decline. And of course, you all have done an amazing job in planning for a healthy and sustainable vision for the park. And raising money to make it happen. And we're all just so lucky as a city that we have folks like you who are willing to step forward and take care of Peace Park.
So at the Conservancy, our work is based upon the belief that if we take care of the park will take care of us. Why is it so important that we take care of the park?
Nothing has driven home for us just how important outdoor spaces for recreation are than this particular moment in history when outdoor recreation is some of the only place that we can safely get out, stretch our legs, have a breath of fresh air, maybe even talk to a friend from a socially distanced 6 feet away. Just being outside and moving, being out in nature is so good for our minds and our bodies. I don't even think we could have appreciated it in the same way if this pandemic hadn't happened. But we can't ignore the park if we want it to be there for future generations. What we've learned from ecologists and scientists in our own history is that it's going to need our help. It's going to need our help to be restored back to a natural, sustainable, ecologically healthy landscape. And it's going to need our continued care to make it a nice place for all of us to enjoy.
So Peace Park Conservancy continues to work with the City of Austin to restore and maintain this very treasured space. And it's an ongoing partnership that we will welcome participation from folks in the community to help ensure its success. And as we've mentioned previously, that work is for the long term, that this is an ongoing effort and one that we'll need to continue to work on, for a long time going into the future. Is there anything else that you'd like to share as we conclude our series on the interpretive plan?
I think it might be interesting to talk a little bit about how Peace Park Conservancy is sort of a leader in creating a vision for how a park can be run through this private-public partnership. I'm not sure that that's something that most people in the public understand, just like most people don't understand what an interpretive master plan is. But it's such important work that you're doing. I think when we think of a city park, we just imagine, there's, staff and there's a budget and there's just a line item and the city just takes care of it. But you all are a nonprofit organization that supports the park in all these amazing ways.
Yeah, and just, piggybacking on that, Angela, I would say that, you're absolutely right. Austinites are so fortunate to have an organization like the Peace Park Conservancy helping to conserve and restore one of our oldest public parks. I think one of the other really important things that we hope comes out of this project is that people are inspired to join in the effort, right? Because while Peace Park Conservancy can do a lot, you can't do it all. It's just not possible. You need volunteers, you need funds, you need help. And we really wanted people to understand that there's a place for them in that process. And by creating work days for people and new opportunities for them to participate in maintaining and preserving the park themselves.
That's absolutely right. And we're so grateful for you bringing that up. Our viewers can find more information about the Conservancy at peacepark.org. And again, I want to thank the two of you for helping launch this initial series. And I look forward to having further conversations on this topic. As we said, the next steps will involve additional community engagement as the Conservancy works to actually implement this plan. And I look forward to having you back in a future series as we start to implement the plan and we can talk more about it into the future. But for now, thank you so much for joining us. Again, for more information, you can visit the Conservancy's website at peacepark.org.